For those of you who don't know me, I know a lot of y'all do. I'm a certified alcohol and drug counselor and peer support specialist. And today I am excited to stand before all of you all and celebrate something that began years ago with only a mustard seed of faith. My 10 years of active recovery from methamphetamine addiction. Rocky Frank. Can you get this steady, please? Mary, Rocky's coming.
He's like, nope. Come here, sweetie.
So back in October 2015, I entered long-term residential treatment program called Cascade for mothers and children. At that time, I wasn't sure I could really change. To be honest, I didn't even really believe I was addicted. What I did know was something in my life was not working. By the end of the third week in that program, something began to shift. I started to believe that recovery was possible. Today, nearly a decade later, I stand here as a daughter, a mother, a partner, a professional in the field of addiction, a student, and most importantly, a woman living and thriving in long-term recovery. I want to take a few minutes to share part of my journey, not to seek sympathy or to boast, but to offer a glimpse into what addiction looked like in my life and highlight why our community response truly matters. Addiction doesn't happen overnight. It builds, it takes root, and it impacts every corner of a person's life. And while many of us have felt the sting of addiction, whether personally, through a loved one, or in our community, we have to ask ourselves, are the choices we make in our daily lives helping to support healing and recovery, or are they creating barriers along the way? I began using substances when I was 16, but the truth is, my story began long before that. At just 7 years old, I was already living in a home where one of my parents struggled with addiction. Childhood is supposed to be a safe place, but for me, it was filled with instability, secrets, and fear. Those wounds became fertile ground for addiction to grow. Throughout my life, I had stretches of sobriety, specifically during pregnancies and while I was incarcerated. Those times proved to me that I could stop, but eventually I would slip back into the pit of despair with each relapse. My rock bottom lowered and the fall hurt more. Those times, unresolved trauma, domestic violence, and the shame of repeating my family's cycles of addiction, now as a mother myself, became the fuel my addiction fed on. I began to believe I had no future, that none of my dreams would ever come true. Every day felt heavy, even small decisions felt impossible. Relationships crumbled, and I believed the worst lies about myself, that I was unworthy and that recovery was for other people, but not for me. Hope felt like a language I had forgotten how to speak. The day I entered long-term residential treatment, I was broken, figuratively and physically. I had a broken femur, I was scared, and I was unsure if I had it in me to change or even finish this program. I remember showing up with a broken leg and a 15-month-old baby to this highly independent program, and a staff member looked at me and said, "Honey, you're going to be required to walk a lot in this program. I'm not sure you can make it." I then looked back at her and said, "Excuse me, ma'am, I have to make it. There is no going back. I'm desperate." My time in recovery wasn't easy. My time in treatment wasn't easy. Recovery rarely is. But it was there that I began to understand something life-changing. Addiction didn't mean I was bad, messed up, or a less deserving human. It meant I was an unhealthy version of myself, someone who deserved an opportunity for healing and a chance to grow. In treatment, I learned how to be a present mother, gained new tools, built healthier habits, and slowly began to rebuild my sense of self-worth. But before anything else, I rediscovered my faith in my higher power. Since those early days in my recovery journey, my faith has continued to remind me I was never truly alone, that I was worthy of healing, and that there was a greater purpose for my life. From that foundation, I discovered the power of community, the mentors, counselors, peers, and friends who walked beside me with understanding and hope. Those connections became the foundation for future healthy relationships. Many of the people I met in that program are still an important part of my life, and they taught me that it's okay and even normal to be vulnerable with others. Their presence showed me that recovery isn't a journey we have to take alone. It becomes stronger and more meaningful when we walk it together. And now, almost a decade later, I stand here with gratitude and pride for my resilience, my courage, and the life that I have built by choosing recovery one day at a time. I would be remiss to not pause here and reflect, because the truth is I would very possibly not be standing here today without the people who stood and continue to stand by me when my path felt unstable and uncertain. First, I would like to thank my parents and step-parents. By the time I was 7, addiction had already marked my childhood, but by 19, my mother had broken free from and was rebuilding her life on the foundation of recovery. Her journey became my inspiration. She showed me that recovery is real, it is possible, and it can be done. There were years when I broke their trust, leaving them with nothing but disappointment and worry. And yet, even then, they never stopped believing in me. My parents have supported me in ways that were quiet but life-changing, sitting beside me as I called treatment centers, driving me hours back and forth to access resources, caring for my children when I couldn't, and simply refusing to give up on me. Even today, all 4 of my parents remain lifelines in my recovery. Their strength gave me something to lean on when I could not believe in myself. Next, my children, all of my children. They're my greatest motivation. There are countless moments when giving up seems easier than fighting, but every time I look at them, because they're not looking at me, but every time I look at them, I know I never want to go back. They remind me I have the most precious reason to get up and keep on keeping on, even when it feels impossible. Amen. And my fiance, Rocky, has also been my partner in this journey. Together, we've beaten the odds. We've walked this road side by side, and just recently, he celebrated his own 9th year in sobriety. His honesty, strength, and his willingness to do the hard work of recovery beside me has been a source of power I cannot fully put into words. And this community, Macon County, you too have been a lifeline. You gave me opportunities not just to survive, but to grow, to lead, and to give back at a time. You reminded me that recovery is not just about sobriety, it's about building a meaningful life. I'm also so grateful to my mentors, my college instructors who showed me that education is a tool for transformation, for Sheila Jenkins at No Wrong Door, who saw potential in me long before I could see it in myself, for Howard Daddle and Candace Burton, who supported me during my addiction and now supervise me in my work as a counselor and peer support specialist. All of these people have challenged me, encouraged me, and opened doors I'd never imagined would be mine to walk through. Okay. Gratitude is not something I take lightly. My recovery is not just my story. It is the direct result of a community effort. Friends, family, mentors, and professionals, every single one of them have played a role in helping me find solid ground. That is what recovery looks like. It's not just an individual success story. It is a community success story. When one person recovers, families begin to heal, children regain hope, and communities grow stronger. When I graduated from treatment, many suggested to me not to come back to Franklin. They warned it would be too triggering, too difficult. But I love these mountains, and I wanted to bring what I had experienced in Charlotte back to rural North Carolina, Western North Carolina. I knew I didn't just want a job. I wanted a career where I could make a difference. So I enrolled in Southwestern Community College and worked hard, eventually earning 3 associate's degrees. Turn me off. That education led me to my role at No Wrong Door for Support and Recovery, where today I provide counseling, support, and most importantly, hope to individuals detained at the Macon County Detention Center. I walk through those doors every week knowing I am sitting across from people in the same place I once was. My message to them is simple: recovery is possible and you are not alone. This is why I am so passionate about smart decarceration. Smart decarceration means using justice and public safety strategies that prioritize treatment and rehabilitation over incarceration for people whose primary issue is substance use. It does not mean ignoring accountability. It does not mean avoiding consequences. It means correcting behavior by creating accountability through treatment, support, and opportunities to grow instead of carceral punishment that has been statistically proven to only deepen the cycle of harm. For far too long, addiction has been treated not only as a moral failing, but as a crime instead of an illness. But prison doesn't heal. It doesn't teach responsibility in a lasting way. It separates people from their families, their communities, and their chance at real change. The impact ripples outwards. Families are torn apart, children grow up without parents, communities lose neighbors who could be contributing if given the chance. Just think how many children in our community are waiting for their parents to be helped, not punished. Because if you know me, you know I know of you. But when courts and communities choose a different path, when they offer treatment before incarceration, everything can change. Individuals begin to rediscover purpose through rehabilitation and recovery. Families are able to stay connected and heal together. Children grow up with their parents, or at least with the hope of knowing their parents are working towards healing with purpose. Communities gain back productive members who can contribute in meaningful ways. This is the heart of smart incarceration. It's not about letting people off the hook. Believe me, I fully support law enforcement in keeping dangerous substances off the streets. But what I am advocating for is accountability that comes through access to rehabilitative strategies, using treatment as a form of correction. It's about giving people a real fighting chance to change. And I can tell you this because I lived it. If the justice system had interpreted my addiction as merely criminal, I would not be standing here today celebrating 10 years in recovery. I may not be raising my children. I may not be working as a counselor, offering hope to people who are exactly where I once was. Smart incarceration is not just a policy, it's a lifeline. So I believe in a future where recovery is the expectation, not the exception. A future where our justice system responds to addiction with correction strategies focused on compassion, evidence-based treatment, and accountability, not punishment in the form of mass incarceration. I believe in a Western North Carolina and Macon County where we have recovery courts, where judges, prosecutors, and community leaders choose to allow people a chance to prove themselves through rehabilitation. A future where families stay together, children grow up with their parents, and people are supported to rebuild their lives rather than be discarded by a system that is overrun with outdated policies that only further the issues they intend to mitigate. This is why I have continued my college education. I will graduate in December with my bachelor's in social work and will continue toward my master's and a licensure as a clinical addiction specialist. My goal is to not only share my story, but to help build a system where no one is thrown away for being sick. We all have a role to play, whether it's advocating for treatment courts, supporting recovery programs, mentoring someone in recovery, or simply just listening with compassion. Today, as I celebrate 10 years in recovery, I want to do more than just share my story and celebrate my own life. I wanted to share a perspective that advocates for change and celebrates the possibility of a different future for every person still struggling, every family still hurting, and every child still waiting for their parent to come home. Because today I can tell you this, through my recovery journey, I now speak hope fluently. I wake up each day striving to make even the smallest of my dreams come true. Most importantly, I know this. My future and the future of my children is brighter. Brighter because today I choose not to use. Brighter because today I choose life. And brighter because today I choose hope. Thank you for letting me share my story, my gratitude, my perspective, and my hope. Thank you for being a community that believes in recovery, in second chances, and in the power of the people to change when given the right support. Together we can break the cycle of addiction and mass incarceration. Together we can restore hope, rebuild families, and strengthen communities. Together we can build a brighter tomorrow, one life, one family, one community at a time. Thank you.
All right, folks, bear with me one more time. I'm back. I wanted to tell you first of all that Smoky Mountain Harm Reduction and Full Circle Recovery sends their love as well. They cannot be here tonight because they